thank you everyone who is on this webinar. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your coming to Washington for our Policy and Leadership Forum and for Advisor Advocacy Day on this coming Thursday. We have scheduled this briefing for 45 minutes, which is not a lot of time because we have a lot of ground to cover. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this first part of this meeting over to Lincoln Clapper from Advocacy Associates. We have worked with Advocacy Associates for the last, I believe, 3 Advisor Advocacy Days, both some earlier pre-pandemic in-person events and last year's virtual event. They have enormous experience and expertise scheduling and conducting these type of events. In fact, I was talking to Lincoln earlier, and to date this year, they have been in charge of 185 fly-in events, and I think have scheduled something like 30,000 meetings. So Lincoln, tell us how you do it. Tell us what everyone needs to know.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. Good afternoon, everybody. As Neil said, my name's Lincoln Clapper. I'm part of the Advocacy Associates team here in DC, and I just want to kick things off on this webinar to walk you through a few logistics of how you'll be accessing your schedules ahead of next week through our app and how to navigate that, what to look out for in your email, and then also some kind of a Capitol Hill 101, what to expect in today's current climate on Capitol Hill in terms of the logistics getting around the Capitol complex. So we'll cover all those areas here in about 10 minutes. If you have any questions along the way, again, please put them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen here, and we'll answer those immediately after I finish. So that being said, I'm just going to share my screen and we'll get started here. So you all will be getting an email from us over the next week or so with instructions on how to download the app. And that's going to come from Advocacy Day at advocacyassociates.com. You can see a sample here highlighted in green. If you, there will be an announcement on the specific day of when you can expect that. But if you get to say the middle part of next week and you still haven't gotten that email from us, check your spam or junk folder. It's probably sitting there. If you do find it there, just unmark it as spam, so that way you can ensure you're getting the correct communication leading up to the day of the event. In the middle part of the email are going to be instructions on how to download the app. You'll be able to access this from any device on any app store. It's a very simple bullet point instruction. There's a screenshot here of what that app looks like, just to give you a sense of what you're looking for when you search for it. And when you open the app, we'll have already provided you with login credentials, and you'll see that highlighted here in the light blue box. So once you've downloaded the app and opened it up and gone into your correct group, make sure you enter those credentials, and then that will launch you into your schedule. And that'll be the only time you'll need to do that. Once you logged in the first time, you won't be asked to log in again every time you reopen the app. If you have any issues getting it downloaded or set up, you're able to contact us directly. There will be a contact link in the bottom of that email that you're going to get from us here over the next week. So you can reach out to our team in advance if you're having any technical issues. Now, once you're logged in, you're going to see a home screen that'll look similar to this. All of your confirmed meetings will have a time below them. Anything that's still pending on your schedule will show up as TBD. More than likely, we will still have a few pending meetings at the point in which you receive your schedule. Very normal and standard, even that late in the process, to have a few outstanding meetings, whether we're rescheduling or still working on a time with that office. Once that meeting does become confirmed on your schedule, you will get a push notification about that. So you'll be very much in the loop as your meeting becomes updated and finalized. Now, all times are going to show in the time zone you're located in. It's based on your location. So for those of you who are outside the Eastern time zone, you'll see a schedule that will not be set in the Eastern time zone. It'll be in your local time zone. But once you come to DC and reopen the app, it'll reconfigure to your location, and your schedule will sync up into Eastern time. Now, because some offices are still only taking virtual meetings, there's a small percentage of you that will have virtual meetings on your schedule, and you'll be able to tell the format type on the homepage as well. You can see here in this example, the Senator Young meeting is a virtual meeting, but the Rep Marvin meeting is in person. So you'll be able to know upfront and in advance what type of format your meeting is going to be in. When you tap on the meeting, that it'll give you more information about that. So anywhere within that red box, it'll launch you into that specific meeting dashboard. You'll see the office, the time, and who you're going to be speaking with at the very top of the app. And in the middle part will be your location. So we'll give you the office address and the building number of where you need to go to. The map, if you tap on the map, it will pull up, give you directions to it, whether driving or walking. So if you're not too familiar with the Capitol complex, this will give you walking directions of where you need to go from meeting to meeting. Now, in addition to some offices only taking virtual meetings, the Capitol complex is still under a escort policy in terms of getting in and out of the buildings. So you will not be able to freely walk in and out of the buildings, unfortunately, still. Things could change between now and then. You never know with Capitol Hill sometimes, but as of today and just the way it's been for the last year and a half, just expect that when you get into DC that's how you'll be navigating between meetings on the Hill. Each office is in charge of creating their own instructions on how to get to escort you into the building to get you to their office. And so in this section here will be specific instructions from the office about what number to call, what entrance to go to, who to ask for, if there's any health and safety protocols you need to abide by. Really anything and everything at all that the office requires of you will be in this section. So just make sure to read up on that beforehand. It really will be your Bible in terms of getting you to where you need to be and to where you need to be on time. As you scroll down, you'll see a couple other options there. So the first one will be the attendees tab, which will pull up a list of all the attendees who will be in that meeting. If you tap on the attendee's name, you'll get more information about them if you'd like to contact them outside the app. Beneath that will be a talking points tab, which will display all your talking points. You can reference those either before or during each meeting if you'd like. The documents tab will pull up specific documents that are associated with your talking points. If you tap on them, it'll pull up as a PDF on your device. You don't have to download anything. It'll just open right on up for you. And you'll be able to reference those again before or during each meeting if you prefer. The meeting report form will pull up a list of questions that you'll need to answer once the meeting concludes. If you don't answer them, you'll just get reminder notifications to fill it out. So better off just filling it out while the meeting's fresh on your mind. Once you finish it, just submit, press the submit button in the upper right corner. And you'll do this for each meeting on your schedule. The send thank you email is an ability for you to send a thank you note to the office once the meeting concludes. It'll automatically pull the staffer's email for who you met with. So you'll have that information already available to you. You can of course personalize and customize that email however you want, but you'll see the script has already been crafted for you and a lot of that work's already been done. The check-in function is basically an attendance report, letting us know that you made it on time. So just click that either before or after each meeting. We'll be sending this attendance report to Neil and his team after the event. The meeting notes tab will pull up a blank notepad for you to take freehand style notes. So if you prefer not to use pen or paper, you can take those notes right here in this function and really just keep everything in one place. Lastly, you can mark if the member of Congress attended or if only staff attended. And this, it's just a nice data point to have from a debrief perspective. Sometimes the member is not able to make it even though we've scheduled it with them, or vice versa. Sometimes they're able to make it unexpectedly because their schedule's freed up. So just a nice way to keep tabs on who was actually present in the meeting. So please mark one of those options as well. Now going across the bottom left to right are a few other tabs. The next one over is the legislators tab, and this will pull up bios for everyone that you're meeting with. If you tap on their name, you'll get their bio. You can see that in the sample here. And within each bio is a few other tabs. There's a bills tab, which if you're tracking any particular bills for your event, will highlight those bills. News will pull any news articles that member of Congress has been mentioned in. You can read those online. And the committees tab will highlight all the committees that member of Congress serves on. Specifically in the bills tab, if you are tracking any particular bills, if you tap on it, it'll give you the summary of the bill, the vote history, a list of all the sponsors and co-sponsors, and the status. So you'll have a host of information at your fingertips. But again, if you're not tracking any particular bills, then this area will be blank. The messages tab will highlight any updates that have been made to your schedule. So again, you will get a push notification if there's a time change, a location change, a cancellation, an addition, all of that will come through. You also will get a notification email for those of you that do not have push notifications turned on, just to make sure you get the update. But once you revisit the app, this messages area will basically catalog all the changes that have been made to your schedule. So in case you haven't seen it, you'll see it that first time you reopen the app, and it'll keep those changes in there for you to backtrack in case you need to reference that for any point. The directory will be a master directory of every attendee in the event, and so you can contact people outside your meetings if you'd like to. And the More tab will be an area where you can update your profile if you'd like. You have an ability to post on the Twitter. There may be an overall event feedback survey in there, but specifically what I want to highlight here is the support function. So this is where you will go if you have any questions the day of the event, whether it's technical support, scheduling support, there's a logistical issue getting around the hill. Our phone number will be in there. You're able to contact us directly, and that really will be the fastest way to get any question resolved. For those of you that have virtual meetings, this is what the format would look like on a mobile device. All you have to do is click on that green Join Online Meeting button, and that would pull up the Zoom dashboard for you to utilize as a video function. Essentially, you'll be FaceTime in the office if you choose to take this meeting on a mobile device. You can, of course, dial in too if you prefer. Everybody will have that option as well. That's perfectly fine. If you'd rather dial in, you can certainly do that as well. Depending on the device you're using, sometimes you are prompted to re-enter the meeting IDs or access codes, and we'll provide those here to reference in case you're prompted to re-enter them. Now, the nice thing about our app and our online dashboard, for those of you that participated in the virtual event last year, once you've logged into your app and created your login, you can use the same login credentials to access your schedule online. And there will be a link in that initial email that we send out about how to access that dashboard. So you'll log in with those same exact credentials that you use to access your app. If you'd prefer to take your virtual meeting over a laptop or a tablet for a larger screen, this is just a quick screenshot of what that dashboard will look like once you're in the meeting. But it has all the same features I've already reviewed, just in a web format. So again, check your spam or junk folder by middle of next week if you haven't gotten that email from us. Our domain's at advocacyassociates.com. We're asking everybody to get in line for their meetings about 30 minutes prior to the start time. Again, because of the security apparatus, a lot of the buildings only have one entrance open right now, so lines can be a little bit long depending on the time of day, and we really just want to make sure that you're in line and rather be early than late, especially just with how busy things have been this month on Capitol Hill. All times are going to be displayed in the time zone you're located in. So again, it'll adjust accordingly based on your location, and it'll adjust to Eastern time when you get into DC. You're going to get reminders 1 hour prior to each meeting. This will just help keep you on track, let you know that your schedule is good to go. There will be a help number in the support tab to call. Again, if you have any issues, you can call us directly. These meetings are going to go anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. So just have your talking points prepared accordingly. And any changes to your schedule are going to come through via email and push notification, and they'll be housed in that messages tab on your app just to catalog any changes to your schedule. One last thing I just want to review is a quick troubleshooting tool. So if at any point your schedule comes up as blank, that just means you've had some sort of timeout. And all you need to do is pull down and refresh the menu to bring your schedule back up. And the way you do that is you hold your finger at the very top of the screen, holding down on the screen. Just slide it all the way to the bottom until you see the loading symbol appear. You can see that spinning wheel, the gray spinning wheel there at the top. Once you see that icon appear, you can release your finger. Your screen will refresh and your schedule will pop back up. If that doesn't work, please contact us through the support function again for any issues, but 99 out of 100 times that usually solves the problem. So that being said, very much looking forward to working with you all again this year on this event. And I think we have a few questions in the Q&A to go over.
So Lincoln, Neil Simon jumping in here. The first question was about the time for escorts to meet at the door of the building. Again, I think Lincoln said, get to those meetings a half hour. If you can get there earlier, do so. The second question was about when you're going to get the instructions for the app with your schedule and all. We're working on that now with the Advocacy Associates team. I'm going to be talking a little bit about that in a moment. but I'm hoping that you're going to get it not later than early, perhaps Monday of next week. We're still scheduling a lot of meetings, so we want to get it to you when the schedule is a little bit more fleshed out. The third question is about, is there a location on the Hill to take remote meetings? I will be talking about that, and the answer is yes. We will have a room or perhaps rooms at the Capitol Hill Club, which is on the House side and very convenient, just across the street from the Cannon House office building. Another question, are these group meetings or are they going to be one-on-one? When you get the master schedule, and we are going to try to send you a master schedule, as well as when you get your personal schedule, as Lincoln went over in the app, you'll be able to find out who will be attending that meeting with you. For many, there are a lot of folks, for instance, coming from New York, so those are going to be a lot of group meetings. But then again, for that single person coming from Idaho, I think you're going to be all alone. However, in those cases, I will be trying to line up an IAA staffer to accompany you. Are there any other questions, Lincoln? You're looking at them too, that you can answer?
Yeah, I see a question here asking if they're using the IAA login for the app, or is this something that we need to create? So this will be a totally separate app that you'll need to download, and we will provide you with the credentials that you'll need to log into the app.
And the question about the slide deck you just presented, we are recording this session, so and we will send it out to all attendees, those of you who are on the call now and others who are participating in Advisor Advocacy Day that weren't able. So hopefully that will suffice. And I will go over the dress code. The question was, is it suit and tie? Really, the most important question is about shoes. You want to wear comfortable shoes. I would say, and Lincoln, correct me if I'm wrong, the Hill has loosened up some. Business casual should be fine, but if you're more comfortable, more formally, please go ahead and do so. However, black tie would be inappropriate. Lincoln, did I cover it all?
Yes, sir. You nailed it.
Okay, Lincoln, thank you so much. Again, if there are other questions, you can direct them to me. I'm going to take over this webinar now. And if I don't have the answer right here on the spot, we will get back to you right after this webinar with the answer. But thank you, Lincoln, for all the work that Advocacy as Associates is doing. Thank you for developing what is an absolutely remarkable and very user-friendly app. And thank you for making this presentation at today's webinar.
Thank you, Neil. We'll see you next week.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to take over now. We're going to build up to go over the talking points. We have developed 8 talking points for this program. They will be available on the app. In addition, at the briefing on Thursday morning at the headquarters hotel, we will have hard copy available to provide you. And they cover a range of issues, and toward the end of this webinar, I'm going to be going over them. But first, let me start at the top with some logistics. Again, thank you for participating. The most important thing that you can do next Thursday is explaining who you are and what you do. Bankers, brokers are fairly well known on the Hill. Members and staffers pretty much know what they do, but we still have to explain who we are and what we do. We have made great traction in this area. You'll be meeting with a lot of folks who know what investment advisors and asset managers are, but don't assume that. So please explain who you are, what you do for a living, who your clients are. Try to make a local connection. That is always particularly helpful on the Hill, because that makes the message that IAA delivers on your behalf resonate, because there's a local or political connection. The other very broad statement is You do not have to be an issues expert. If you are, terrific. However, if there are questions that you simply don't have the answer for, or where some follow-up is required, we'll do that. IA will do that. So make a note on the app or send me an email during the day or thereafter, and we will follow up on any of these issues. Again, for many of the meetings, there will be an IA staffer present, but they're not there to talk at the meeting. That's for you. You're the constituents, you're the taxpayers, you're the employers. However, to the extent the staffer from IA can be a resource, certainly you can turn to them, or they can give voice to answer a question if you don't have the answer to it. But again, you don't have to be the issue expert. Okay, Thursday, I already mentioned the most important thing: wear comfortable shoes. Hopefully the weather will be good. Nonetheless, you will be walking around a fair amount. So we have a briefing. The day will start. I think we have a continental breakfast at 8 o'clock at the hotel. The briefing will start at 8:30, and it will start promptly at 8:30. So please be there and be dressed for the day. Be ready, wearing your comfortable shoes and your suit and tie or something more business casual. That is fine. The most important thing is for you to be comfortable. We have arranged for buses, for shuttle buses, to take folks over to the Hill. And in fact, the drop-off point is going to be on the west front of the Capitol at what's called the Peace Circle, which is between the west front of the Capitol building and that little reflecting pool that you've probably all seen when you come to Washington. And it's right close to the Ulysses S. Grant statue. But it is equidistant between the House and Senate side, and it's about a 3-block walk, whether you go north to the Senate side or south to the House side. So again, be prepared for that. The earliest meetings, and I've been keeping abreast of Advocacy Associates' work scheduling the meetings. The earliest meeting is at, right now, I think there's a single meeting at 9:30, then there are several at 10. Certainly for the 9:30 group, you're probably not going to be able to stick around for that Thursday briefing. You're going to want to get there earlier. We are figuring out now when the buses will start running. It is possible they're not going to start running until 9 o'clock. So for that 8:30 crew, IA will happily pick up the expense of an Uber or cab to get you directly to your first meeting. So at least you can come to the start of the briefing before you head out, perhaps at 8:45 rather than at the end of the meeting at 9. For the rest of the crew, for the 10 o'clock meetings, as long as you're on that first shuttle bus, again, which I expect will be leaving around 9, we will let you know what that schedule is. You should be good. Well, the buses, by the way, will also be bringing folks back to the headquarters hotel. And again, we're working on that scheduling now. So stay tuned. You will be getting an email from us with that information. Another logistical matter, as I mentioned briefly during Lincoln's presentation, we have arranged for a room and perhaps two at the Capitol Hill Club. It's on the House side. It's just catty corner across the street from the Cannon House office building. So it's very convenient. It will be a great place for you all to take virtual meetings. There'll be refreshment, coffee, water, soda, probably some snacks. So that will, and it will just be a place if you want to put your feet up or talk to some of your colleagues or just rest. That's what we have that space for. Of course, in past years, this wasn't necessary because you could go to one of the House or Senate cafeterias. That is no longer possible. As Lincoln explained, people are going to be escorted to meetings and escorted from meetings. It's not going to be possible unless the rules change for you to go directly from one meeting inside a building to another, whether it's in the same building or connected. So yes, it's going to be a bit more walking, and it is going to require a bit more gap between the individual meetings to make sure that you get there on time. Okay, let's start talking about the meetings. I'm building up to getting to the talking points. You're going to get schedules in addition to the app, which will be a great way to communicate with you. I believe that Nora Efoff and our IAA staff team will be collecting cell phone numbers also. We'll certainly provide you with our cell phone numbers. So you'll have plenty of support and ways to get in touch with us. One of the reasons, I want to get you your personal schedule sooner rather than later, as well as the master schedule, is so if you have a 2-hour gap in the course of the day and you see that there's a meeting schedule that you'd like to attend, we're going to try to get you into that meeting. However, you just can't show up. It's not like the good old days. We're going to have to give that office advance notice, 24 or perhaps 48 hours advance notice, so you're on their list. So as soon as you get that email, your personal schedule and the master schedule, it will be important that you take a look at it. And if there are additional meetings that look like they fit into your schedule that you'd like to attend, that you let us know just at your very earliest convenience. Again, we will try hard to get you into those meetings. And by the way, I just see there's a question about the security. It's no different than in past years. You know, it's a magnometer or whatever it's called. You know, put your briefcase and all on the conveyor belt. It's not like quite flying by air. You don't have to take off your belt and everything else. But yes, so the security is as it has been. Takes a little bit of time, but not too much. Okay. There are going to be 2 different types of meetings. We have tried to schedule as many as possible as in person. Frankly, I think they are a more effective tool to persuade folks and to educate folks about what we do and the issues that we're concerned about. However, as Lincoln mentioned, there's still some offices that are only doing virtual meetings. And again, you will be able to do them at the Congressional, the CHC, the Congressional, the Capitol Hill Club. I knew something was wrong there. So you'll be able to use your phone, your tablet, your laptop. I think we'll have a couple IAA laptops at the ready, and Nora and some other staffers will be there to assist you if you need any help. But that's how we'll handle the virtual meetings. Of course, you don't have to go to the Capitol Hill Club to do it. If you find another comfortable place to sit down, go ahead. But that spot will be available for virtual meetings as well as just a place for you to have a little bit of respite. Okay, in-person meetings. We try to get meetings with members of Congress. They're hard to pin down. Most of the meetings are going to be with staffers. Some of those staffers may have great expertise on financial services matters, and many will not. They could be a year out of college or just made a transition from being an intern to some junior legislative staffer. So again, don't assume too much. Get a reading. But again, the most important thing is to let them know who you are, what you do, what investment advisors do, and if you have a possibility, establish that local connection. If you're handling the endowment fund for a local college, boy, sure be worth mentioning. If you have a connection to the member of Congress, mention that too. As I mentioned also, we really don't want any of you wandering about by your lonesome. Not that we think you're going to get into any mischief, but we will be dispatching IAA staff to certain of the meetings, and just about all the staff is available for that. So you can expect that, and that should show up on your app too, because there'll be a meeting attendee. And then finally, before I start talking about the talking points, because time is flying, there'll be certain materials that will be in an IAA folder that we call leave behinds. And these are the materials that you're going to leave with the office. We do not want to inundate offices with lots of pieces of paper because they'll go right into the circular file. I worked on the Hill, that's the way it works. So I think our current plan is to leave them with 3 documents. The policy priorities document, which I believe most of you have seen. And by the way, we found something that needed updating with regard to proxy voting and the SEC's proxy rules, and that has been done. So that will be the version that will be on the app, and that will have hard copy of both for you and copies in the leave behind brochures that you'll carry to the meetings. There'll be some state specific information. We are creating a sheet for every state that you come from, whether you reside there or that's where your office is. I think that will serve us well in terms of making that local connection. It will have information on the number of advisors in that state and the aggregate AUM that is managed. And then there's going to be a short summary of the snapshot of the investment advisory profession nationally. This used to be called EVREV for you old timers. It's now called the snapshot. So those are the 3 leave behinds. Okay, let's talk about the talking points. And again, they'll be, I believe we already sent you them in one of the emails about this meeting. There will be hard copy of these for you at the briefing on Thursday. In addition, it will be available through the app. I'm not going to go into them in great detail now, both because we only have another 12 or 13 minutes and because I want to leave time for questions. And again, it's not necessary for you to be issue experts. The talking points are general, but let me go over them. The first one, titled The Investment Advisory Profession, has some data on the number of investment advisors nationally, nearly 15,000, and the aggregate, the total assets under management, which is an eye-popping $128 trillion. It may be a little bit less this week, but it's still an absolutely extraordinary number. Secondly, please, as I mentioned earlier, let folks know that investment advisors are a distinct profession. They occupy a very, very special place in the financial services marketplace. They're not bankers, they're not brokers, and they're not necessarily what lots of folks think of as financial advisors, which is a term that is used from everyone from insurance to brokers. So talk about being an investment advisor or an asset manager and explain what you do. Explain that you act in the best interest of your clients throughout the relationship. You are a fiduciary. It is not transaction by transaction. And in that regard, feel free, make the point to explain you're not a salesperson. You work on the other side of the street. And that your compensation model is more closely aligned with a client's interest than others in the financial service community, including certainly brokers. One other point here, and this is probably best made for those of you who do not work for firms with hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of assets under management. But as you know, the vast majority of investment advisors are small businesses. That resonates in Congress. There's a lot of concern about the survival of small business. It's something IAA is very concerned about, especially given the torrent of new regulations coming out of the SEC and the cumulative impact that's going to have on small advisors. So talk about the size of your firm. The median firm, I think, has 8 non-clerical employees. That will get folks' attention on the Hill. Okay, there's another talking point that goes into some of these small business issues, a little bit more detail. I'm not going to talk about that one right now, but it will be in your materials, and I think you already have a copy of it that was sent with the email announcing this webinar. Okay, first sort of substantive topic where there's actually legislative activity, retirement savings and tax reform. For those of you who have been reading either our 5 for Friday that goes out to members of the Advocacy Council, which I hope you all join, by the way, no charge, it's important, or that you've looked at recent member alerts, the Secure Act important retirement savings legislation has already passed the House, and it is up before the Senate. It will do a whole bunch of things that are important, raising the age for required minimum distributions from 72 to 75, allow 403 plans to invest in CITs, increasing IRA catch-up provisions, on and on and on. We really want the Senate, in the dwindling number of legislative days left in this Congress, to take it up. And if it doesn't take it up before the midterm elections, we want them to take it up during the lame duck session. There's a lot of momentum behind it, but this is one where we have a specific ask. We want Congress to pass the Secure Act. And although this message might seem particularly suited for the Senate since it's already passed the House, the Senate version is going to be a little different from the House version. So it's going to bounce back to the House to probably accede to what the Senate does. So let them know how important that is to you and your clients. On that tax reform and retirement savings talking points, and by the way, these talking points are for you. They are not leave-behinds. I talk about a couple other tax issues. As you know, we would love to restore and expand the deductibility of investment advisory fees. We'd like advisory firms that are organized as pass-throughs to be eligible for the 20% pass-through deduction. Feel free to mention those. Okay, another talking point, which is of particular importance right now, has to do with AML, anti-money laundering. Every year, Congress must pass the National Defense Authorization Act. This allows Congress to then appropriate money for national defense. The NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act, has passed the House, hasn't yet been taken up by the Senate, but it will shortly. Why is this important to you? Because the House put in AML provisions that are applicable to investment advisors. There's something called the Enablers Act. I'll try not to bore you with details, but it was really came out of Russia's invasion of the Ukraine and was an attempt to crack down on Russian oligarchs. So it was really looking at financial intermediaries, which includes you all, investment advisors, and it would require the SEC to move Treasury's FinCEN, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, to move ahead with rulemaking. Well, it's already on FinCEN's rulemaking agenda, and frankly, they have the expertise to figure out what it's required, how broadly it's applicable, and what its contours should be. We'd much rather Congress not get involved in this. There is some pushback coming from the minority, the Republican side, I know at least on the Senate Banking Committee. So it's not a done deal. That's going to be included in the Senate bill. So if you can lend your voice opposing or telling Congress to refrain from putting the Enablers Act anti-money laundering provisions in the National Defense Authorization Act, that would be great. Again, there's some other details on that AML talking point. Take a look at them, but this is another really important one. By the way, if it's passed in the National Defense Authorization Act, I believe it would require that rulemaking to be done by next year. So it's going to have an impact sooner rather than later. And then a couple more talking points. There's one on the SEC's very ambitious and scarily accelerated rulemaking agenda. Let them know that you're concerned. The sheer volume of it, the cumulative effect of all these rules that is going to have on your firm. You all do not have compliance departments that just can expand without limit in response to new regulation. So it's going to be it could be very burdensome, very costly. Frankly, we're concerned about the pace of activity. And by the way, SEC Chair Gary Gensler, who's driving that bus, is going to be speaking at the Policy and Leadership Forum, and I'm sure these issues will come up. But let folks know on the Hill who have a very high consciousness of Gensler and his agenda And there are lots of concerns, perhaps more on the Republican side than the Democratic side, but there are lots of concerns about the amount of change and how quickly it's coming out of the SEC. Okay, a couple more talking point papers. ESG, lots and lots of press about ESG, and there's contentiousness on Capitol Hill about it, a lot of pushback, primarily from the Republican side. We expect, especially if Republicans gain control of the House of Representatives in the midterm elections, which is looking likely, that legislation could move in the House that would prohibit consideration of ESG in ERISA plans and restrict it for other clients unless they very explicitly say they want it. Frankly, we do not want government deciding what you can consider on your client's behalf, exercising your obligations as fiduciaries and what they cannot. So again, you may want to talk about it differently with Republicans who may be very anti-ESG in general than Democrats, but let them know you're a fiduciary, you're acting in the best interest of your clients, you're in touch with your clients on an ongoing basis. Government doesn't need to get involved in that process. Two more, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. IAA is really trying to exercise some leadership here. We're doing a lot in this area. And we had our hand in a piece of legislation that was favorably reported out last spring out of the House Financial Services Committee, which would allow so-called OMWIs, these Offices of Minority and Women Inclusion, they send out surveys periodically, but the response rate is lamentably low. And you can't really consider what to do in terms of DEI unless you have a baseline, that foundational data. A piece of legislation that we're supporting, HR 2123, would allow that, and it would allow the SEC's Office of Minority and Women Inclusion to require responses from firms with more than 100 employees. So if you have an opportunity, voice your support from that. And then finally, and I hope I haven't gone too long and bored you all, cybersecurity and data privacy. You all know how important this is. There is a exceedingly and increasingly complicated patchwork pattern of federal and state regulation. There's a lot of liability in this area. Compliance is very difficult. Let members of Congress and their staff know how important it is for there to be federal regulation, a federal regulatory regime in this area that is preemptive of the states. I apologize, that seems to be getting my dog excited. So I've gotten through the talking points. I don't see any questions at this moment. So feel free to talk about other issues. You do not all have to talk the IAA tune. You do not have to go over certainly all of these talking points. There won't be time. If you want to talk about the state of the economy, the recent action by the Federal Reserve, some issue that is of particular importance, personal or professional, to you or your firm, feel free to do so. You are taking a day out of your schedule to come to Washington. Make that time worthwhile. Again, feel free to talk about other issues. And then finally, with 1 minute to go, please keep your eyes out for emails from IAA about Advisor Advocacy Day and from Advocacy Associates as Lincoln went over. And by the way, in the email that we sent out about this webinar, there was a one-pager about the app. It didn't have a link to the app. You haven't been sent that yet, but it has the same information that Lincoln went over earlier today. So, seeing no additional questions, I think we have come to the end of this webinar. I can't tell you how much we at the IAA appreciate your coming to town. The Policy and Leadership Forum is going to be splendid. We have a phenomenal lineup, and Advisor Advocacy Day is important. This is our opportunity to connect on Capitol Hill let folks know who investment advisors are and how important we are to the functioning of this economy and to the thousands of clients that you have. So again, thank you so much. Please be in touch. You can reach me by email, by phone. We'll respond quickly. Thank you. Bye-bye.